Our next speaker is the Vice President of Corporate Strategy of Techstars. Their mission is to help entrepreneurs and corporate to prosper together. And their partners include Nike, Disney, Microsoft, Google, and Ford, etc., etc. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Dave Drach, our next guest speaker.
Wow. Welcome, Dave. This is, how many times have you been in Taiwan for this month?
So this is my third time in Taiwan this month, and I've actually really enjoyed getting to know the ecosystem here.
I guess you accumulate a little bit mileage in this month, so yeah. But before we kind of start chatting, so do you want to talk a little bit about yourself and about Techstars?
Yeah, so I'm Dave Drach. They just introduced me. I've been working with Techstars since it started in Boulder, Colorado in 2006. And we have grown our ecosystem worldwide. We're actually running 42 programs around the world right now across pretty much all continents. We just launched our most recent one with Arcadis in the Netherlands. And so for our Dutch friends, we now have a Techstars program in Amsterdam. And we're very excited about that. Personally, I helped build a company. We sold that company to Microsoft, actually went through an IPO. So I went through the full entrepreneur journey and building the company up, and then worked at Microsoft for a few years, about 6 years, focused on startup acquisition and focused on building the startup ecosystem around Microsoft activities. And that's where I got more deeply engaged with Techstars and really started to build programs when I joined Techstars focused on corporate innovation, corporate run accelerators, some of the programs that they mentioned earlier. So now we focus on those programs around the world, and we have a particular focus in the next couple years across Asia. So we're very interested in growing the Techstars presence. We have very active startup weekend community programs going across Asia. We're very focused on growing more accelerator programs across different locations throughout Asia.
Yeah, so there are actually two things I want to follow up more. So you mentioned about corporate innovation. How does that tie with the startup ecosystem? I think that's the first thing I want to ask from your input, and how does that experience help the startup and also help the corporate to build the next big things or the next great, wonderful products? Second thing is about how do you build the so-called startup ecosystem? You mentioned that in the end, right? There's Startup Weekend, there's kind of Start Next, a lot of different kind of programs. How do you, or from your experience, how do those activities help the city or help the region build up the startup ecosystem?
Yeah, so let's talk about corporate innovation first. That is something that I helped create in creating the first corporate accelerators. And what was really interesting to me, there's really two things that I see transform on the corporate side when we execute programs like that. The first one is pure innovation sourcing. I think it's pretty clear to many that most of the innovations that are moving through our economy these days are innovations that have come from startups. And you have to think of things like Google and Amazon essentially as startups. It wasn't that long ago that they were early stage companies that were just creating their first products. And so most of the innovations are coming from founders, from entrepreneurs. And corporates have the ability to source this pipeline of innovations to run experiments, to evaluate alternatives on how you engage customers with these types of founder-based, entrepreneurial-driven ventures. On the other side, startups are able to support their product validation, support their customer research and actually customer discovery processes in collaboration with these corporations. So not only does it benefit the corporations, it also clearly benefits the startups in that process, which could turn into a partnership or an acquisition, or perhaps just the ability for a startup to find a potential market. The second piece on the corporate innovation side is how corporations actually drive corporate transformation. So it's one thing to discover a disruptive technology. It's something very different inside of a large corporation to move that technology into that corporation and start delivering that as a product. And that's something that we see happen in our corporate programs with a relationship between senior executives, often the CEOs, we'll talk about some stories there, and the founders. So when we create a relationship between a founder who has a great company and has a great competency to build, large corporations or large companies, and that individual, that founder creates a relationship with that corporate executive, that CEO, their relationship together starts to change the way they both think. They both think the founder can think more like being a corporate operating infrastructure or corporation, and the corporation can think more innovatively like a founder would think. So it's those two things, one, the innovation pipeline side, and the other is the corporate transformation side, the way you change the behavior and the way a corporation thinks. So that's really the corporate side. I can address the second one, which was startup ecosystem. So startup ecosystem is something that we are getting more active in. We actually have created a variety of programs throughout the years at Techstars that have helped create strong ecosystems and actually collaborate with other startup activities in the ecosystems where we operate. Probably the biggest thing is it's what we call the founder's journey. So the founder's journey is where an individual has the first idea, the first inspiration to become a founder of a company. It's where they actually decide they're going to go create a new venture. And we have a program called Startup Weekend, which we run around the world. We ran I think close to 1,000 startup weekends last year in 120 countries. And it's where over a weekend, over 3 days, I as a founder can go create a company. And so often it's the first experience that we have. If I'm a corporate employee, I'm a student, I'm an employee at another startup, I can go out and test my ideas, my vision as being a founder for the first time. And so that's the beginning of the journey. And then we work that through the process in collaboration with other partners and other programs. I can actually go through and form my company. I can get into an accelerator, a Techstars program, or many of the other accelerators that are running, and I can grow my company into a real venture and then raise capital and go on to become a going concern. We strive to get each of those ecosystems, they're all unique, they all have their own cultures in each of the locations where they run, but then cross-connect those so that they can leverage the benefits of capital, investment, go-to-market, technology specializations in different regions to help grow that company globally. So it's a combination of really being able to create the full founder journey in a particular location, as well as connecting those journeys with other locations where they can benefit from the growth capital, the other assets that may be missing in that local market. So filling in the gaps that may be missing in that local market to help each of the founders thrive.
Wow, thanks for a lot of sharing. I think that's actually quite extensive, especially from the so-called corporate innovation and also from the star ecosystem building side, right? I think in each of the company, all of them actually have the motivation to grow. And but the thing is that a lot of time the company actually kind of limited by what they've been doing for kind of like 10 years, 20 years. And the people got used to that, right? So can you talk a little bit more about that? Do you have any kind of like a story you can share? How do you engage with one specific big companies? How do you drive the innovation force? Kind of like ignite their kind of like innovation heart again and help them work with the star and help their staff, help their executive become more willing to embrace the new technology, new ideas, and how does that kind of transform the company culture?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and I'll make sure that we're on time. So if we don't, if I run over, so somebody will, pull me off the stage or something. I'm going to go with the first story, which may be a story that people will know. I think it's a good story that shows the evolution of how one of the startups has grown in our ecosystem, and then how they've tapped into the corporate capability. And so that company is called Sphero. Sphero was a company that went through the Techstars program in Boulder, Colorado in 2010. A couple engineers that were from locally university in Colorado. And these two engineers loved building robots. That's what they were good at. They could build anything. And so they created this company, but they didn't really know what the product was. They went through the Techstars program, they figured out what the product was, they found a market, and they ended up creating a ball, the Sphero ball, that was distributed worldwide through all the Apple stores. So that was the first iteration of that product. This company, Sphero, then had a challenge. Their challenge was, I can't build a $100 million, a $1 billion company off of a single ball. I need more balls. I need more opportunities to create revenue. And so we had recently signed the relationship with Disney. We had created the Disney Accelerator powered by Techstars. And so Sphero was one of the companies that came into that accelerator. And their intent was to learn from Disney how to create more product alternatives. So how does a Disney create many products across their entire catalog of opportunities? And so that's what this company, Sphero, went into the Disney program with a focus on. And they happened to meet with Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, who just recently was working on creative activities around Star Wars, the latest Star Wars movie. And they had a conversation about this new character called BB-8. Hello? Featured in an upcoming movie. And so they collaborated together. Sphero created the BB-8 robot kind of toy that you can go buy. And then they went on to create the R2-D2 and a whole series of products. It was good for Sphero because it helped them understand how to build new products. It helped them understand how to leverage intellectual property at the scale of Disney. And it helped Disney learn how to rapidly deploy new products through the sales channel. So Disney typically took about 18 months to deliver something, a new royalty-based licensing agreement through the process. 18 months was too long. In this process, they learned how to shorten that down to 4 to 5 months, so they could really, focus on delivering products in a much tighter time frame, collaborate with more startups for those types of opportunities. So it was a benefit on both sides in that particular case, and Sphero has grown significantly since they did that relationship.
So yeah, that's a wonderful story, right? So we can see that a startup can actually learn a lot from the corporate by deploying how to scale the business, how to leverage the existing channels, and the big company can actually learn from startup how to build a new idea, a new product, right? But I want to ask one question to you. So what's the Techstars role here? What's the main value proposition for you added to the corporate and added to the startups?
So what's the primary value proposition from Techstars?
Yeah, value proposition. Yeah.
So I think we're running a variety of corporate events and activities, and I think we're, like I was discussing before, we're really focused on two primary areas. One is that innovation pipeline, really exposing corporations to the innovations that are out there, both inside of our accelerator programs and also through activities like we have with BizDev Day and other programs, matchmaking activities, things like that. We have a portfolio now of over 1,300 startups that corporations that are working with us can interact with and meet and do deals with, essentially do collaborations with. And then on the training side, of the transformation on the corporate side, we deliver. One of our partners told us recently that we were 3 times more cost effective, essentially compared to alternatives. Let's say consulting alternatives and things like that. The amount of money that they spent to execute the pilots with the startups were 3 times more cost effective in helping them find their innovations and test their innovations than any previous approach that they had taken. Open innovation is not going away. And there are very few tools to really leverage open innovation effectively. And I think the collaboration between startups and corporations, if done right, is allowing that corporations to really tap into the wave of innovation coming from the entrepreneurs.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that the company can actually leverage your expertise to drive innovation faster and more cost-effective. And while at the same time, the startup, by working with you guys, can tap into the great network you have across, I think, 100 and something countries, cities.
Yeah, so we're currently operating Techstars Accelerator programs in 26 cities. And we've run startup weekends last year, approximately 120 cities.
Yeah, so any final suggestion for, I think a lot of people here are actually startups, so any suggestion to them how to work with Techstars if they are interested in working with you guys?
Yeah, for startups, I think I was talking to one of our founders recently. So his name is Isaac Saldana. He went through a Techstars program in 2009 in Colorado again. So yeah, I just note that many of our companies come from places all over the world, not all from Silicon Valley or Northern California. But Isaac came from Los Angeles, and he was a very talented developer. And he helped create a company called SendGrid. SendGrid has a very simple product. SendGrid actually has an API that allows you to send emails. So if any of you have reset your password, or if you've done a payment transaction recently, it's very likely that you've received an email that was sent by SendGrid. They currently send about 2% of all the email on the internet. But when I mentored him in 2009, when he was just a founder, we had a conversation at one point where he did not feel that he had the capability, the personal capability, to lead a team, of, and we were making plans to hire 15 employees. And he was concerned about himself being the CEO of a company and leading 15 employees. And I emphasize, and we emphasize this a lot in the work that we do with our founders, that focus on the product, focus on your employees, focus on building a good team, and they'll respect you and build a good culture, and your company will grow. And that's what he did. He focused on those aspects, and SendGrid went on to IPO recently, about 5 months ago. They're currently worth $1.2 billion US, and they're having great success. He actually now, recently, I was just talking to him, he recently moved back into pure software development. They hired a separate CEO, and now he's happily writing code again in the company that he created that is helping now 600 employees be successful in their journey. Probably the most modest, humble individual that I've interacted with, but because he focused on the product, he focused on building a good culture, and he grew his company to great success.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I think learning from the mentors, learning from each other, leveraging the network, I think that's all the staff need to do, and while you are here, right?
Yeah, thank you so much, and congratulations for the launch of the Taiwan Tech Arena. That was a great event yesterday.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rich and Dave.